Well, hi. This is the jujube fruit plant and fruiting plant. This is a tree that's often grown as a shrub. Like this plant here is only about 5 feet tall. I'm actually standing a little below the root line here because it's in a bed. And this is a plant that's known as Chinese date, not because the fruit is related to the date palm at all. It's not. It's actually from China originally, and while it is drought tolerant like dates, which the true date palm grows in very hot, extremely dry regions of the world only, this can take a wider variety of soil conditions and temperatures. Um, Here we're in western Washington, for example, and this is a variety that's hardy to probably 10 below, and the only association that it has with dates is that the fruit, when dried, kind of is reminiscent of the sweetness and chewiness of a date, but they're not actually botanically related at all. And this fruit can be eaten in the fresh stage, where it's more apple-like in its texture and sweetness, or it can be dried. Here are some dried fruits from last year, so by comparison, and they're very chewy. Now this particular variety, which is Lee, can be eaten in the yellow-green form, or it's going to be at its sweetest when it's dark brown. These plants are very prunable. I pruned this very heavily last year, and you can see it's still fruited quite heavily. And they do require a good sunny warm location. Here in western Washington, which is one of the coolest places in the United States, and we're at 1,100-foot elevation, so we can have trouble ripening this fruit here outdoors without finding a really warm spot microclimate for it. So in a really cool location, one might want to consider growing it against a wall, for example, on the south side of a wall, or even in an unheated greenhouse or something like that, because the problem with this tree is that can also be an asset in the sense that it's very late to come out of dormancy in the spring. It's actually the last fruit tree to come out of dormancy, start making leaves and flowers in the spring. And that's because here in western Washington, our springs are so cool. So it really can use an inducement to come out of dormancy a little earlier by being exposed to some warm weather. Like, for example, in the Willamette Valley, in the Portland area in Oregon, it's just a little bit warmer there in the spring than it is here, and there they can ripen outdoors more consistently than they can here at 1,100-foot elevation in western Washington. So any trick that you can use to get them out of dormancy a little earlier will ensure that you have a long enough growing season to get them to ripen properly. But they are known for their extreme drought tolerance, wide adaptability. They can grow in alkaline or acidic soils. They don't have any insect or disease problems to speak of that we've ever experienced. Some of them can be very thorny. Some are virtually thorn-free. This particular variety will have a very occasional, very sharp thorn right at the base of each leaf, and other varieties can have long, wicked thorns, but it is something to be aware of with these. And they are mostly self-pollinating, though having a second variety. This is Lee, which is entirely self-pollinating. Having a second variety can be helpful in increasing yields with cross-pollination. Let's see. So just because they're so late to come out of dormancy, one plant that I grew as an understory to the jujube was asparagus, because the jujubes are so late to leaf out. I was able to harvest probably 8 or 10 separate harvests of asparagus spears in the spring before the jujubes leafed out so much as to totally shade things out. So it was a nice double cropping strategy. And then the asparagus, eventually I just let it go make its fronds. And